Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, and welcome to the program. It'd be the 14th of March, and just letting you know out of the gate that I've had my first technical difficulties today. I can't take calls today. I'm sorry. I can't. It won't let me connect to Zoom, which is obviously necessary if a caller is going to get in. So I don't know quite what's up. I tried it a few times and nothing's happening. So there's that. So it's just me, but there's, as usual, no dearth of news to discuss. And I want to just jump in with what President Biden was up to yesterday. He was in my home state of Wisconsin, which is one of the, must-win states, and that is true for the Republicans as well. But it's what he was announcing there that sets his presidency apart and that defines it as a extraordinarily consequential presidency when it comes to revitalizing communities and rebuilding infrastructure. He has already done so much in that regard, it's mind-blowing. The fact that he gets no credit from the vast majority of American citizens shows that they're not paying attention, believe me. So yesterday he goes to Milwaukee. He goes to a black section of Milwaukee that, much like the Hill District and other black neighborhoods of cities, was literally walled off from the ability to easily take part in the community's economy. And that was done by building roads in such a way, what we did to the just decimating the Hill District here. And then because of the roads we put in, 579 and that whole bunch of stuff, literally after destroying so much of that community, we walled them off. They did the same thing in Milwaukee. And all of these things happened about the same time in the 60s. And they were done by people who just thought they were the greatest things in the world to vitalize our economy. But they weren't thinking of black people in that regard. So in Milwaukee alone, what they did was destroy 17,000 homes. Let's imagine that. They mowed down 17,000 homes, 1,000 businesses to make way for an interstate highway, which I have traveled 1,000,000 times and will no more travel it without a deep, sickening feeling in my gut. Sure makes that ride up to my mom's place in Green Bay easy. Would I have a longer ride up there to replace those 17,000 homes, 1,000 businesses? You bet I would, but that's done. So what Biden was announcing yesterday was his new effort to use federal grants to remove or retrofit some of these highways that separate minority neighborhoods in our country, from city cores, from easy access to jobs, to entertainment centers, even to hospitals. And Biden said in Milwaukee, we are now recognizing, what we did, and we're going to redo it. Milwaukee is just one of the areas that will receive some of this funding. I would hope that Pittsburgh does as well, although it has recently started to attempt ways to reconnect the lower hill to the downtown, as you know. And this reminds us again of what this president has done and how he has shifted the emphasis of the White House on repairing damage of sometimes good intentions and repairing damage of ill intentions. And the only thing is that people have to understand that he's doing this. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg said there's a reason that there's a phrase, wrong side of the tracks, right? The very fact that we have that idiom in America tells you that we have always known that there are these divisions caused by infrastructure. You put a railroad through, and it walls off one side, which becomes undesirable, and the other, which becomes more desirable. So that literally, and you all know where these places are. In my neighborhood, it's Penn Avenue. So literally the same home existing on, let's say, 3 houses in from Penn Avenue going north, or 3 houses or in on the other side, south side from Penn, those 2 exact same houses will be valued differently simply by being on, quote, the right or wrong side of the tracks. So let us hope that, for many reasons, the American people have the smarts to understand that this is a president who sees his job, who has a true plan that benefits so many Americans, and he's working mightily to implement. His infrastructure bill also was just huge in what it intends to do, what it is already doing, and what it will continue to do. And of course, all of the Republicans voted against it. They voted it down. And in fact, I saw a post by the vile New York Republican Congresswoman who desperately wants to be Donald Trump's vice presidential pick. That would be Elise Stefanik. And she put out yesterday this to her constituents. I am proud to announce that I have secured $1,857,000 for a water district development project for the town of Messina in this year's appropriations process. This funding will go toward providing public water service to the residents of Messina. Guess what? She didn't secure a frigging thing. She voted against the bill. She voted against it. Maybe she lobbied once the bill got passed, I guess, without her. She then grabbed some of that money and then proudly, as she said, announced that she has secured this money that would not have existed but for the Democrats and Joe Biden in the White House. And these Republicans have been doing this all over the country. I believe, a little aside, in his State of the Union speech, the president remarked upon it. How, I know you guys all voted against the infrastructure bill, but man, I see you at the ribbon cuttings taking credit. They're shameless. I'm thinking of that question in that god-awful most recent poll from the New York Times, Siena College, when the majority of Americans said that Biden has done nothing for me that benefits me or something. Idiots. Just frigging idiots. Paying no attention. None. While we're talking about idiots, let me just run through a few things here that you might have missed. Oh, God. Republicans in Arizona just blocked a measure that would have made birth control a right. Access to birth control a right for women. They didn't let that pass. Pay attention to what their agenda is. That bill was an relatively innocuous bill, because it just said that women should have access to information about birth control, blah, 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 blah. It shouldn't, I don't have the exact reading of the bill, but I've seen quite a bit of enraged postings on social media about it. It's just extraordinary. Back to Biden. Today, I don't know if he maybe has already done it, and I just don't know. But today, or he is expected to formally oppose the sale of U.S. steel to the Japanese steelmaker Nippon. Now, this is obviously a big international story. It is also, of course, a local story, since U.S. Steel was and remains headquartered here in Pittsburgh, PA, even if it has much reduced from its grand old days. Speaking of grand old days, I came upon a history of U.S. Steel, and that takes us back to February of 1901. 1901. when J.P. Morgan, God, was that guy? He was the Elon Musk of his day. J.P. Morgan got together with some other extraordinarily rich folks, and they created, putting together a few other companies, a company they called United States Steel Corporation. And by putting these companies together, creating United States Steel Corporation, they created a company that produced 2/3 of the nation's steel, and which, when it was incorporated, was valued at $1.4 billion. This is 1901. 1.4 billion in 1901. I can't even imagine really what that valuation would be. But just to give you a hint, 1.4 billion in 1901 was 3 times more than the federal government's annual budget. That's how mighty U.S. Steel was. And the president is going to be coming out today to say, I don't want this. Because strong American steel companies powered by American steel workers need to stay in American hands. Interestingly enough, the Nippon, the Japanese company that wants to buy U.S. Steel, has said that it will pay $14 billion for it. Imagine. Valued at $1.4 billion in its founding, in 1901, a Japanese company in 2024 wants to buy it for $14 billion. Sounds cheap, I guess. All right, back to the other side. Dear God. I guess the headline of this is "You Can't Make This Up." I should really just have a segment called "You Can't Make This Up." The problem is pretty much the entire show would fit into a segment titled "You Can't Make This Up." Maybe that should be the new show title. You can't make this up. So what do I refer to? I can say that now because they said a preposition can end. That is a preposition, right? Yeah. I am referring to, does the name Christina Bobb, there's 3 B's in that name, B-O-B-B. Christina Bobb, ring a bell? It might. She's one of the, former Trump lawyers. There are probably thousands of former Trump lawyers, and there are thousands more that are now supposedly in his employ. But she is now a former Trump lawyer. She was mightily involved in the attempt to overthrow the 2020 election. And she also famously signed the the letter or the document that was presented to the Department of Justice once they knew that Trump had all this top secret U.S. information in the bathroom at Mar-a-Lago. She is the lawyer who signed off on the document that said that there were no government documents at Mar-a-Lago. That's Christina Bobb, just to spur your memories. Well, she's got a new job. Did you hear what job Bob has? Bob's job. She's been hired by the Republican National Committee, which was in the news yesterday for a bloodbath that occurred there when, Trump's daughter-in-law and this other sycophant threw out anybody who I guess was not totally 120% behind the plan. The plan being to destroy democracy and have in power in perpetuity Donald Trump. Well, that crowd has now hired Bob for a new job as, get this is the title, and like you can't make it up department. Her job title is Senior Counsel for Election Integrity. Yeah. You can't make it up. You know, Trump has destroyed so much. And he's really almost destroyed parity, right? Because when reality presents itself to any normal person as parody, thinking that whatever it is they're doing, it belongs in like a comedy club or something. I don't know. No, it is mind-boggling. You can't make it up. In fact, I think it was Robert Reich where I read of this Republican Party, this do-nothing Congress, this now white nationalist party. And he says, since 2020, anyone who's paying attention can see that the Republican Party has become openly opposed to democracy, has embraced white Christian nationalism, and leaders like Hungary's Viktor Orban. And it's because Orban, as I think I mentioned yesterday, because he believes that democracy weakens a people and a nation because it gives people of color and recent arrivals, immigrants, and LGBTQ folks and women the same rights as good old heterosexual native-born white men. Simple as that. So we have a Republican Party now that does not believe in the founding principle of this country. And it also doesn't believe anymore, just so you understand, it doesn't believe in what our memories tell us Republicans always believed in, and that is small government, right? Remember the phrase, so small you can drown it in a bathtub? No. This new, we'll call it the Trump party, because that's what it is, believes in a very strong government, and a government that gets involved in things that before government did not much. So you listen to what Trump's saying, you listen to what his acolytes are saying, and it's quite clear that Trump calls for a strong government that will introduce and enforce religious rules, will ban abortion, will probably ban birth control, will ban books, will ban diversity, will ban inclusion, will ban immigrants. And because he took over the Supreme Court with his three appointees, we have a Supreme Court that likely will sign off, and in fact has, on a lot of that. And he has promised that if he is reelected, he makes, this is what's so amazing to me, he said, if he says it, believe it. If it causes too much of a kerfuffle, then they say, oh, he was joking. But that is not true. He really says what he wants and intends to do. And he has said, he has even said, I promise that when I return to office, I'm going to do to the civil service what we just did with the RNC. I'm going to purge the place. I'm going to have a bloodbath. And he'll take out every Democrat, everybody. Well, you know what he'll do. He will replace career civil servants with Trump loyalists. He has openly called for weaponizing the Department of Justice, weaponizing the Department of Defense. And he has openly said he will build camps to put as many as 10 million people currently living in this country inside of them. And not just undocumented immigrants and asylum seekers, but also those who actually have birthright citizenship. They're not being coy. And you have, obviously, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives a little less controlled than it was just the other day because, man, as you know, it's getting smaller and smaller, their majority. I think it's down to just 3. They have a majority of 3. But when what's his name from who just announced he's leaving like tomorrow, can't take it anymore, when he goes, I think they're down, maybe down to 2 then. Or maybe it's 3 with him. I don't know. There's a special election that's going to put another Democrat in all likelihood. Then they'll be down to 2. That happens next month. So it could well be that even before the election, the Republicans could lose control of the chamber. You should only hope. So apparently they have this retreat every year, the Republicans, and they get together and plot what next horrific thing they will attempt to do? Well, since they don't do much of anything, what horrific things they will attempt to prevent from being done. And that's what they're good at, getting nothing done. And one of the reasons this Ken Buck is coming to me now, Ken Buck, the Arizona Republican who's leaving, I think he's Arizona, is because, some of these guys, even if you can't tolerate their politics, they did take the job seriously in that they wanted to get it done. And this is a guy who in so many ways is awful, but he refused to go along with this Biden impeachment, with all these other performative clown shows, and he's had it. So he's leaving. He's gone. And the thing is, he's not alone. There are others who can't take it anymore. So when they called their annual retreat, the amazing thing is most Republicans are not going. This is for elected Republicans. They are not going. They have to be somewhere else. I have another engagement. I am so sorry, unable. They don't want to. They don't want to be with these people. They can't stomach them. And in fact, one of them, this guy is from the House of Representatives, a Republican. He told a reporter anonymously, "I'd rather sit down with Hannibal Lecter and eat my own liver." Wow. Wow. Yike. Yep. That's your Trump party. It's at war with itself. Well, what's left of the Republican Party is at war with itself. The Trump Party is, of course, just at war with democracy and fellow Americans. God. So there's all of that. And I forgot yesterday, and I wanted to talk about it, and dang it, just in the, just because things get lost in the course of doing the show, scraps of paper and little notes to myself. What do you mean, caller? Go away. Where was I? Oh God, Robert F. That stands for fucking. Robert fucking Kennedy Jr. has let it be known that he's considering for, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but when I heard this, he's considering Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, for his vice president spot. Oh, he's also considering former wrestler, former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura as well, and throw in Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang. But it's the Rodgers thing that has gotten the most attention, and the two have been pretty palsy-walsy lately. Yeah, going for hikes together, talking together a lot. There are two guys on the same page. They're both narcissistic jerks. Same page. And how the hell Rodgers thinks that he's going to, I mean, last time I looked, the election that he'd be running in would be occurring during the football season, in which he is supposed to be the savior of the hapless New York Jets. And I find it improbable that he could do both of those things, run and be the quarterback. And I find it hard to believe that the Jets would be thrilled with his divided attention. The reason, obviously, J fucking K likes him is because he too is a prominent anti-vaxxer, and he's also just a spreader of lies and crazy crap. He has dabbled in Sandy Hook, the horrific slaughter of those children and teachers. He has dabbled in, skepticism about whether that happened. He has falsely accused slandered Jimmy Kimmel of being involved with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, he is just the most disgusting, great quarterback, disgusting human being, as is Robert fucking Kennedy, who could do damage, who could give the country Donald Trump again, because God knows, and he knows, he's not going to be elected the president. Boy, narcissism. Are we learning a lot about human psychology these days? And a lot of it dispiriting. Hang on a minute while I just guzzle a bit of a drink here. Had to do that. I was getting talking about I was getting. Oh God, I told you recently that I've given money, which I don't generally do. I've been giving money to candidates, Democrats, who are either in some jeopardy of losing a Senate seat or a governorship. I've been doing that and giving to Democratic challengers in places where there could be an upset. And here's the problem. As soon as you do that, well, you know what I'm going to say. As soon as you do it, every other campaign in the country is sending you texts. I mean, I've gotten so many Dear Lynn from famous people. It doesn't work with me. And I am now, at what point do you think that once you give and they can identify you as on their side, once you give and then they just keep hitting you up 10 times a day, whether they're running in Arizona, Colorado, Montana, Washington, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Missouri, it doesn't matter. You get these constant, and I have to tell you, it's not that I don't support them, but after a while, there must be a point at which this constant peppering of actual folks on your side turns them off. I mean, it doesn't make them vote against you, but I just wish that, I don't know, I wish it would stop. And that's what I've been doing. You have to type stop into the response. But that doesn't help because you stop that one, and then there's still 5,000 other campaigns that have your number. Boy, there's a phrase that has changed meaning a lot. I got his number. Oh, God. Okay, so just sort of vacuuming up some stuff that I have here in front of me. The TikTok thing, I don't know. I'm not into it, so it overwhelmingly passes the House. The Senate is a little queasier on it. It does seem to me that if a company with this many uh, followers is owned by a Chinese company, which is to say that it is tied to the Chinese government, because there ain't no way it's not. And because it has so many, what are they called? Followers, members, users, uh, they are vacuuming up data. That's what happens, you know. They are vacuuming up all kinds of data about hundreds of millions of Americans. I think it was 170 million US accounts. Is that possible? Wow. Um, and so it's considered that that data would be available to the Chinese government, and that this then becomes more than just an app on which to stay in touch with people and post things. It becomes a security risk. I don't know. I don't know. They're not saying you got to get rid of TikTok. You're saying you got to sell it so it's not owned by a Chinese company. And who the hell knows? And I saw in the news today that remember Mnuchin? What a vile character! That was Trump's Treasury Secretary. Mnuchin is busily attempting to pull enough investors together uh, to buy it, and I can't imagine how many billions of dollars that would cost. The interesting thing with the TikTok stuff for me is that Trump was for this ban um, or sale or whatever in the United States. And then all of a sudden, bango, he wasn't. And that reversal came very quickly. And it also comes just a few days after he had a meeting with a guy, a Republican mega donor who has $33 billion at stake with TikTok. You don't suppose, do you, that Trump, after meeting with this guy and then all of a sudden reversing himself on the sale, has anything to do with that meeting, and who knows what promises made for a guy who really needs money right now. I don't know. But the truly interesting thing is that so many Republicans who jump when he says jump and vote the way he tells them to vote did not do so on this one. And I'd be hard pressed to come up with another instance of that being the case. I really would. Oh, man. Okay. Oh, there was this thing about There always is, about dated words. And I've mentioned this before, how things and phrases that we say no longer make any sense given the way we actually live now. So to say, I don't know, I can't find the piece, I don't think. Um, to say that you can't, that you're going to dial up somebody. Uh, Let me think of some others. Why, when you want to, can't you think of any? Yeah, I will. I will. Um, oh, people still say subway. They, we call things that they are not anymore because it's there is no such thing. Even when I did an email yesterday, and under the person you're addressing it to, there's a CC so that you can copy it to somebody else. Do you know what CC stands for? Remember back in the day? Oh my God, do I, because I was a secretary. Back in the day when you wanted to make a copy of something, you would place something called carbon paper in between the pages and then roll the whole bunch, paper, carbon paper, paper, carbon paper, into your typewriter and then type. And when it all came out, you had more than one copy. The problem with carbon paper was if you made one mistake, you hit the D instead of the F, you had to start over. There was no finishing. Oh, but CC stands for carbon copy, which I think is interesting. Even the fact that we call this a podcast, that comes from iPod, which is pretty much, again, something. Do you still say roll down the window in a car? Because we don't. You still say, I'm going to dial the phone, or we're taping the TV show. You're not taping the TV show. Tape went out a long time ago. So it just, these words uh, end up being um, obviously dated, which leads me to a funny tweet that I saw this morning, and I got a kick out of it. Some woman posted, I don't want to brag, but I can operate a rotary phone. I can find any word in a printed dictionary. I can operate a typewriter and write and read cursive. Now, it's that last one that freaks me out the most because do you know that people under 20, if you were to write them a letter, because it seems more personal and a nice thing to do, they couldn't read it. Well, they might be able to kind of figure it out, but they can't read writing. And as to I can operate a rotary phone, I've told you this. I have a rotary phone. It's a relic I refuse to get rid of. And I had it for some reason up in the kitchen one day, and my son said, wow. I mean, to him, it was just this amazingly strange object. He said, how did that work? And so, you had to lift this up and put it to your ear. And then I showed him the dialing was the thing that so freaked him out. I said, well, try to dial this number. And he couldn't, I mean, I said, no, 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 no. You have to go all the way around until you hit that little silver thing, and then you have to let it go back. Then you get to do the next number. And he was blown away. Somebody else said that they had made a call and were on speakerphone, and their kid was in the car, and instead of getting a ringtone, they got a busy signal. You know, those old bah, 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 bah. And the kid in the back seat said, "What is that? What is that?" Oh, okay. You know what I haven't done in a long time? I guess because I just haven't found one that totally blew me away. There have been a number of pretty astonishing people that have died recently, but I don't know. So I saw one today that did blow me away because I did not know that anyone had survived so long in such a seemingly impossible way. And this is Paul Alexander, who got polio when he was 6 years old. And they thought he was going to die. He was paralyzed from the neck down. His lungs were paralyzed. He couldn't breathe. So he was placed in an iron lung. And he just died at 78 years old. Can you imagine? He spent 72 years in an iron lung. Now, here's the thing. He still lived an astonishing life. He he went to college. He got a college degree. He he got a law degree. He practiced law from his iron lung. He wrote with his mouth. And he would often speak with people who were suffering from depression and 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 offer them advice, telling them, you just hang on, it'll get better. He didn't complain, but he did say, it gets lonely. Sometimes I get desperate because I can't touch someone. My hands don't move, and they're in the iron lung. And no one touches me except on rare occasions, which I cherish. He trained himself to be able to be outside the iron lung for first just a minute or two, and then for as long as an hour or two. He couldn't really breathe. He would like gulp air, but it was exhausting. It was one caregiver when he was a child who said, "I will get you a puppy if you try to learn to breathe." He wrote a book about it called 3 Minutes for a Dog. He was homeschooled in Dallas, and amazingly, he graduated second in his class. He said, "I didn't get valedictorian because I couldn't do the biology lab." It's really something that I'm just blown away by. Blown away. What some people's lives are from the age of 6. He lives 72. And it's amazing that his body held up like that, being so damaged. I mean, there would be no muscle tone at all, right? He couldn't move. And it's not like people could manipulate him outside and manipulate his arms and legs out because they didn't have access to his body. He was one of the last, so there's still a few other people, wow, who are living inside an iron lung. And the way the iron lung works is it changes the air pressure in the chamber to force air in and then to force air out of the lungs so that the systems of the body uh, can can still function. But the lungs, incapable. They're paralyzed. The diaphragm, paralyzed. It can't move. I don't understand how his intestines would be able to work. I don't know. Astonishingly, he got COVID. And astonishingly, he survived COVID. What a remarkable human being. Well, I got to tell you guys, you lucked out. I had another story here, and the more I was doing the show, the more I didn't want to bring it up. It is a horrific story. Maybe someday when I want to make you miserable, I'll share it with you. Some of you may have seen it in the Washington Post about some of what goes on online with fueled by depraved and cruel, sadistic men who focus on young girls, children often, and force them almost into a kind of, yes, servitude in which they mutilate themselves on camera for their. See, I'm telling you now, it is beyond belief. Beyond belief. Not beyond belief, something else that I just remembered. Navalny, his chief of staff, who, if you watched the documentary Navalny, you got to know as well. He was in Lithuania the other day and was attacked by someone wielding a hammer and tear gas and was not killed, but but yeah, you got to figure that all those people who helped Navalny, worked with him, including his amazing wife, their daughter, that they're all marked. All of them are marked. Oh, Jonathan, you're so smart. I created a Gmail account for myself to use just for political campaigns. Whenever I donate or ask for information, I use that address. Well, aren't you smart? But I didn't. That way, the tsunami of emails from them just goes to that address and they're easier to ignore. I only see them if I want to. Oh my God. Smart, smart. Next time, I'll remember that. Hey, thank you all so very much for being here with me. Sorry I couldn't take calls today. I'm not sure what that's about, but we'll try to figure it out so that when Monday comes along, I can be there for you and allow you to be there in a more participatory capacity. Have a great one. What a glorious day this is. Don't let it slip by. Feel that sun on your skin and deal with the cancer risk later. God almighty, nothing's easy. All right, that's it. I am so out of here. I think. I am so out of here. Here you go.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.